Action!
We're going to talk about new technologies.
Oh, yeah.
So this one was shot virtual production, right?
Virtual production.
Yeah. And what stage were you at?
This was at DNEG, which is they're mainly a feature film, like post-production company. So they did like Interstellar and
Right.
Harry Potter and stuff. And they had a volume stage just out in Park Royal in West London.
When you first got the idea, did you immediately know it was going to be virtual production? Or
Yeah, I knew. Again, it's that magic trick thing of like wanting to do a trick and hide the trick.
yeah,
That I knew for about a year I'd been thinking of trying to find an opportunity to play with a piece of technology, because I'm not known as a technology director. And so I thought, can I do a film where, again, I sort of hide the technology? Nobody really, it's not like I'm going, oh, look at me and the shiny toys, but it's kind of, creating amazing images using this thing and thinking about it in a different way or a lateral way. And so when this track came in, I thought I had this idea of ELLIE in a desert where time is just moving around her. It's going day to night and day to night. And I thought that actually kind of is a great use of virtual production.
oh, it's a fantastic use, yeah. Yeah.
You can change time and keep
and you
play
can
for the same.
Well, you can hold twilight for as long as you like, right? Which is real world is not
so. We shot in DNEG, and actually the lighting for this is, because virtual production's brilliant for loads of things, but one of the things that it's not great for is creating that sense of real world through the light. So like the halation around a subject, the softness and directional light doesn't really come out. The screen doesn't really kick out too much light.
You have to have a additional light.
Yeah, and so it can look quite flat. And so we had a whole rig.
A whole rig of backlights, presumably, yeah. And RGB control backlights to match the...
Yeah, and then obviously we pixel mapped the image on the screen through the light. The light coming off is moving with the images in the background. That scene, so you see that...
that was Dutch in the Head, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was like a kind of perfect sort of theatrical execution to a difficult... trying to get a tricky look, and then just the stupidest, simplest thing is actually the way it happens. So
turn the world, turn the head, and then get them to behave.
Because when I knew that I wanted two spaces, and my producer was like, "I've been costing it up. We can't afford it. We can't afford it," and everyone had been working out how to get two physical spaces in that space. And then as soon as we were like, why don't we just touch the head and touch the world? And everyone was like, and it became this really cool thing on set, because suddenly it's a really old technique. I mean, that is like, it's like a Harold Lloyd technique,
right.
It's like an old silent film idea that then...
But that's what I love about virtual production, because virtual production is an old technique. It's back projection, which is early cinema. So when you're really getting into virtual production, you really are applying a lot of the techniques from early cinema.
Yeah, and it can become a really fun space to work if you work with it, go with it.
Because it's what it does really well. It does exceptionally well, and it has limitations, right? So you have to lean into it a little bit, right?
I mean, I can't imagine it, taking over full production as like, we're going to shoot everything virtually, because it doesn't really lend itself to a lot of things.
No.
I think, but that was brilliant to work.
I think the worlds which the reasons to use it would be, I think, really difficult locations. So if you're trying to get to like really kind of remote locations or somewhere it's very difficult to get a film crew, then virtual production is an option for that. I think certainly holding lights, like we've done here, holding twilight, the whole Mandalorian was shot at twilight. So holding light is a really great use for it. And I think the third use for it is movement. So if you're doing car shoots, like the whole of, I don't know if you've seen The Killer by
Fincher.
That's all virtual production. I mean 90% of that film's virtual.
And it makes sense, because like closing down roads and getting low loaders on,
and also because he's such a precise director, and he wants to do 20 takes. You're not going to be able to do that on a low loader, and because the light's going to change, right? So he can hold those. And the early morning sequence when the killer's doing the stalking at the beginning, that's all virtual production. had to be, because you never get that control of that early dawn light. You won't be able to hold that for the period of time you shoot.
Now I will say that there's something to be said for the moment of performance, and that moment of performance being intrinsically linked to a finality of it. So, we've all gone out and hunted for a dawn and found the most amazing dawn where you're like, oh my God, I've only got 2 takes because the light's going to go right. This is what we have to do. And that creates a kind of furnace of the moment of performance where the actor is performing, but so is the DOP, the cameraman, the focus puller. There's a kind of moment. There's a moment of performance that you could say, could make the work better, because there is an extra something in the water that is like
just the immediacy of it all.
Even just a focus puller, it's like they have, certainly with large format now, they have an incredibly tricky job of like trying to, if you're in like light changing situations, you're on a 100mm wide open, someone's moving, they have to keep it sharp. The focus that person on set has will impact the focus of everyone else on set, and then suddenly you create this sense of a moment that you capture. And I think that's the one thing about virtual production that I did struggle with, is that
it's repeatable.
It's really repeatable, and it kind of, the benefit of being able to do the same thing 100 times is also like a negative.
Curse,
because sometimes you should own, some of my
it's knowing when to walk away from something.
And some of my favorite shots are things that I couldn't do again.
Right.
Where, and I got it wrong for whatever reason. Like, that I didn't shoot that on the right lens, but then when you get it in a cut, you're like, God, that's amazing. And that, like the universe created that. Like, the light did something amazing. The actor did something brilliant. A different lens was on the camera. We just turned and pointed it, got that thing, got that moment, and it was gone.
Yeah.
And it's so full of life. And I think that's the thing that I'm constantly striving for, is like things that feel alive. They feel like they're
But this brings us beautifully back full circle to your performance training as as an experimental theatre.
Yeah. You're trying to find the live moment.
Which is like a theme, obviously, through all of your work.
Yeah, it is. And I think, hopefully, if people watch my work, they feel the same way I felt when I made it. I mean, there's a funny thing when I've done screenings of Breathe, and I get the same feedback a lot of the time, which is that people find that they breathe in communion with the film, and that it alters the way they actually physically breathe in the space, and that's really cool. It's like you've created this like live moment where there's an old theory about performance, like what is theatre, right? What is the act of theatre? Theatre isn't what happens on stage. It's not the actors, it's not the costumes, it's not the set. Theatre is what happens between the stage and the audience. It's the empty space. And that is where the magic, that translation is where the magic comes from. And that's the same with cinema. It's like my favourite place to be in the whole world is to be in a cinema. Just a dark, sensory deprivated place with my phone off, watching a giant screen, and something happens between the screen and me that isn't what's on the screen.
And it's not you, it's in between.
Whatever's in between. And that's the bit that like I'm constantly trying to hunt for.